Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share the video. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's been bothering me. I want to talk about the pay to play system that we have in the United States. I've seen a lot of videos on social media of people saying that the reason why the US men's, not women's, men's is not producing top-notch football, aka soccer players, is because we have a pay-to-play system. Now, before I continue, I just want to say that is not true. I believe they're wrong. I don't think pay-to-play is the problem. And here's the reason why, or one of the reasons why. Okay? When it comes to basketball, on the youth side, baseball, hockey, swimming, track and field, gymnastics, volleyball, etc., etc. I can keep going in and on, right? All those sports I just mentioned on the youth side, it's pay to play, right? So if it's pay to play or pay to participate, however you want to call it, right? You still pay, okay? So if they're doing that and yet they're producing top-notch athletes in those sports, then obviously the pay to play that we have when it comes to the United States men's football, aka soccer, it's not the problem, right? Because same thing with the women's. The women's side is same thing, it's pay to play, and yet they're producing top notch, women's football, aka soccer players. So I think one of the reasons is because we don't have a good system, right? Now, before I even go to the youth side, I can even go further. Let's go to the top and say we don't have a good professional, system, right? For one, we're scattered, right? We have MLS here, you have USL and UPSL, right? So you have, and then you have MISA. So you have all different leagues that's going on, right? And they're not under one umbrella, right? So for example, whereas other countries, it all trickles down. They're all under one umbrella, meaning they'll have the first, right, division, second, third, fourth, fifth, and there's a promotion and relegation, right? So obviously, if let's say a country have let's say four divisions, right? Four divisions, you're bound to have good players because hey, you have to work your way through, right, to stay in that top division or to go up to that top division. And then if you don't do well in that, in the top division, you go down, right? Then you're probably gonna keep going down and down, right? While somebody's gonna keep coming up and up. So obviously, based on that, you are going to produce, top-notch, talents on the men's side, right? Because, for a kid, for example, you have countries that are producing players that are 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. They are in a, part of a club, right? Where the clubs, is good. And of course, they're producing, um, you know, top-notch athletes, right, or football players, I should say, right, to the point where those players, are learning, understanding, right, and they getting, I guess, the same kind of training that those players that are already on the top team is getting, right, so that it's easy for them to, pierce their way through um, to the top, right? Whereas we don't have that. We, like I said before, MLS, this, that, they're all over the place. So that's one of the issues that we have. Because I think if MLS, right, USL and those other guys come together under one umbrella, right, and then they say, okay, hey, we can have first, second, third, fourth, whatever division, and then you have to work your way up and down, right? That also helps. Now, I know there's probably going to be some people looking at this and saying, oh, well, it's not going to work because the United States is so big. Oh, so it's so big, it's not going to work, blah, blah. It's wrong, right? You're wrong. Okay, because what they're basically trying to say is that because the United States is so big that the fan base to generate a fan base is not good. No, I disagree. I think we can generate the fan base, right? Because you know, one, the United States is so big, like they said, right? So that means you should be able to generate a fan base. You shouldn't have, for example, uh, uh, a in a metropolitan area where you have, let's say, 1 million people, right? Should only have one or two professional clubs. That makes no sense. If you have 1 million people in a metropolitan area, you should have at least 4 or 5 professional clubs in that metropolitan area, right? So again, don't tell me that, oh no, it's not possible. It is possible, and it can work. Now, the reason why some people are saying that is because, of course, these people have been you know gravitated to that whatever specific like league, for example MLS, right? They gravitated to that, so they focus on that. um, and also the MLS clubs, some clubs, they don't cater towards the community either. So I think that's also another issue. But if you separate it, I think if you do it like that, where you could have 4, 5, 6, 7 teams, whatever, in one metropolitan area that have about 1 point something million, or even 900,000 or 500,000 people, right? That area now will be able to cater towards their community, and the community will also cater towards their club, and they'll be able to of course produce talents. But again, don't want to drift away from my topic, right? Coming back to the pay to play. So the pay to play, again, going back to what I just said, one of the reasons is, again, the league. Another reason is also these clubs, right? The coaching is not there, right? The coach is not there to produce these athletes. Whereas in other sports, they have that. They have the system, right, to where they can produce athletes. What I mean by the coaching, for example, right? Let's just stick to football, aka soccer, right? Let's say in other countries, yes, they have their own style of coach, right? But they have that foundation, right? And they all follow that foundation. So meaning, for example, let's just say they all say, okay, well, from let's say maybe kids 6 years old, right, to maybe 9 years old, right? The main focus would be, technical, to develop the player's technical ability, and that's the main focus, right? The main focus is, okay, let's teach them how to you know pass, right? How to dribble, how to shoot, you know, um, maybe head or whatever, if that's um, allowed, right? Because United States, kids used to head at that age group, but now they're not allowed to head the ball at that age group anymore. But that's a different topic for another day. Anyways, so they have that, right? And then of course they'll use different methodologies. So okay, well, we do dynamics, statics, you know what I mean, stuff like that. How to open up, what I mean, your hips properly to receive the ball, to pass the ball to your left or pass the ball to your right. How to take a leading touch, you know what I mean, where you can maybe deceive the defender and beat them. So they focus on those dynamics of technical abilities, right? Then they'll probably say, okay, well, from 10, right? From 10 to maybe say 13 years old, right? The main focus probably to teach the kids to understand their positioning, right? Maybe to understand the positioning in terms of defending, right? Pressure, cover, balance, right? In terms of offense, maybe for them to understand the space, right? Sense of awareness, in terms of, movement, I mean, different shooting, whatever, you know what I mean? Different type of, components, right? And then they'll probably talk about from, say 13 to, say 16, right? We want to implement tactics, right? But of course now everything that they do at this level probably is going to be intense, right? Intensity, right? So they have that all across, right? They have those basic across, so which means club from in somewhere in South America, maybe somewhere in Africa, somewhere in Europe, right? They probably all, have that basic foundation. In Asia, same thing, right? So obviously, if everybody's following that foundation, then um, they're bound to, produce, top-notch talent, right? Um, so again, anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe to the video if you're new. Definitely want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about this? Let's start the conversation going. Thank you guys very much.